Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Hi, champions. Thank you for coming back and joining us on The Champion Within. You know that I am very picky about who I allow to come onto this show because we need to align in many ways. I really think that this is a person that we're going to learn from. Selfishly, I'm really interested in his journey, a lot of different pieces of it. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest. Mark Rodriguez, an unstoppable warrior. He's the world's only working stonemason after surviving not one, but 2 double lung transplants. A former college basketball player turned author, speaker, and coach. Mark's story is one of grit, purpose, and a comeback that defies all odds. From brushes with death to inspiring others on stages across the country, Mark is now living out his most powerful role, a servant leader. Mark, thank you for joining us today on The Champion Within. How are you?
Oh, well, God woke me up again this morning, so I'm off to a great start. And let me just start out by saying thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to chat with you and learn about your journey. There's so many things that I want to talk about. I'm first going to say the reason that I decided to bring you on the show initially was when I went and did my stalking. I do some stalking of my guests. I really noticed how you lean into gratitude. Is that something that you practice, or is it something that you have gained along the way? What's your thoughts on gratitude?
I have been through many battles in my life, and I have learned that you have to attain a lot of secret weapons if you want to keep winning those battles. Some of those can develop into a superpower, and gratitude is definitely one of them. Anytime you're in a weird place, a tough place, if you want to stop it and you don't know how, go get in your gratitude seat. If your anxiety is driving you like to the point you want to crawl out of your skin, find something to be grateful for. Sit down and take a breath and just start thanking God for everything you have to be grateful for. Even if it's just for the fact that you're present to be in that battle, that's huge. And so gratitude is everything. If you can be grateful for your worst days, the ones you weren't supposed to make it through, but God found a way that it made sure it wasn't your last day, and you got through that, and you find gratitude in that, there's so much power in that. It's easy to be grateful for good days. There's nothing to it.
I'm so glad you brought that piece up. I work with a lot of different people. We talk about gratitude. It is toughest to be grateful on those tough days or when you're navigating a really challenging moment. It feels like your whole life sometimes it's overwhelming. But that is when we need gratitude the most. You're so right. If you lean in, the more you are grateful, the more you will see that you have things to be grateful for. It will just become really rewiring of the brain. Thank you. I feel motivated already, Mark. I'm so glad that I have you here. We're going to take a lot of different turns in your journey, but the Champion Within has really cool groups of people that listen. I have business owners, athletes, coaches, teachers, just people that we connect with on so many different levels. I did notice in your bio that you were a former basketball player. Tell me just a little bit about your days as a basketball player, and then if possible, link it to where you are now.
Wow. My days as a basketball player, I can recall as early as 2 years old, being at the gym with my dad. My dad was a Hall of Fame basketball coach here in the state of New Mexico for 30 years. He was an incredible player. But I remember being at his practices and sometimes him pulling me out and using me as the example,
Right.
like ball handling drills and things like that. And then I'd get tired and I'd go sit in the corner and use the ball as like a pillow. And I just, from very early on,
I
but I
love that.
remember when I was 5 years old, I was at a basketball camp with my dad, and I wasn't old enough to participate, but my four older brothers were in the camp. And the camp was being hosted by the legendary coach Don Haskins. And him and my father were great friends. And I remember I was sitting there and I was listening to them. And he said, that son of yours, Ronnie, is going to be a great college basketball player one of these days.
Oh, wow.
And when I heard that, I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And so I was hyper focused on that. And even when it didn't look like there was chances for that to happen, and a lot of people were putting that doubt on me, and even my father, one thing I thanked him for the most was that he was honest with me. When I was a senior in high school, he said, son, you're not a college basketball player. Just go to school. And he wasn't being cruel to me. He was being honest. And sometimes,
Right.
and we
Keeping it
have to
real.
remember that when someone's being real with us, it doesn't mean they're being rude. And you have to
Can
thank
you
people
say
for
that a
loving
little
us that
louder for the
much.
people? Say that a little louder for the people in the back, because
So
feedback,
we have to
it,
remember that when people are being real with us, that's not being rude.
so true.
That's true love. When someone's real with you like that, that's true love. And
Right.
so
And
I
not
took
everyone
that.
will do that for you. So the people that do that, they are the ones that you want to hold on to. I always tell people I work with, even my own children, feedback is a gift. It
Mhm.
doesn't always come packaged perfectly beautiful the way you think it should. And sometimes when you open it, you're not loving that gift inside if it's tough to hear. But if you allow yourself, it is a gift. When your dad said you're not a college basketball player, what did you do with that to get to become a college basketball player?
Well, the first thing I did was go get all my game tape and make a highlight reel.
Love it.
So if he wasn't convinced, then maybe I wasn't somewhere in there either. So maybe I needed that highlight reel to kind of convince myself, well, is this something for you? And then I decided, yeah, it is. It is. It really is. It's something that I've had in my heart since I was 5 years old. And that's my dream. You can't let people drive you off your dream. You
Mm.
cannot do that. That's your dream.
And
And
it's
you
okay
know
if
what?
other people don't see it. We
They
appreciate the
don't,
feedback, but
yeah.
some people can't see our vision right away.
And just because they give you their opinion doesn't mean that your dream is over. You should take that. And I've been doing it my whole life. I take what other people have given to me that it's not always been so positive or appear to be positive, and I take it and turn it, whether it's negative or it doesn't appear to be positive, I take it and put it in my fire as fuel. And then
Mm,
that's why I've been able to forge incredible and amazing things in my life, because I've been able to keep my fires burning hot with other people's negativity or other people's doubts or
right.
other people's fears for me. Like, oh, I'm scared for you. You're not going to make it through this. I'm like, nah, give me that. I'm going to throw it in my fire. I need some more fuel.
I love
And,
this so
and
much.
so when you can do that, when you can take negative things, nobody's expecting you to turn it to positive. And when you do that, there's twice the power. And maybe even more. Sometimes you can't even measure the power that you're getting it, because you don't really know the energy that somebody put into that negativity that they gave to you. And so
Very
we're
true.
all energy. Everything is energy, from our thoughts to our words to our actions to the chair that we're sitting on. Somebody put energy into that chair to make it. There's energy in that wood. It's all energy, and energy does not end. It can change. And
Mm,
we have to be very careful how we allow our energy to change through the things that we eat, the things that
right.
we nourish ourselves through our eyes and our ears, because then it's what we start projecting.
There's so many things I want to talk about, but really what you're saying, what we focus on becomes our reality. Is so true in so many spaces there. I want to just highlight a couple things before I could have you here forever, Mark. Be careful. You might become a series. There's so many things. I love that you started out playing basketball when you were young and your dad was the coach, your older brothers, you were jumping in. I coached basketball for a long time at the middle school and high school level, and my kids just were there on the sidelines. My husband would bring them often after a babysitter and then kindergarten. My oldest son, who loves the game of basketball, learned to dribble when I was a coach. And he would literally be out on the court at probably around 1.5 to 2, just practicing dribbling. Some of my former players will say when they see him playing sometimes, if I post it on Facebook or somewhere, we taught him how to dribble. You know, they're grown women now with their own families coaching their kids sometimes. But I just love that story because it made me think of my son. When you're talking about all of this, the food we put into our body, what we listen to, what we focus on, it is really what the champion within is. And the part that was important, you can change what is currently floating through your brain, what is happening, what you're putting into your body. It's a choice. You have to make that choice. Let's jump real far. Your journey had so many cool things along the way. I want to talk about what you're doing now and how you got there. You had 2, if I'm correct, right? 2 double lung transplants.
Yeah.
And you are the only stonemason after surviving those transplants to still be working, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey?
After my second transplant compared to my first was like night and day. My second transplant occurred because I had a fall that caused a pulmonary embolism the size of a nickel in my left lung. And that put me on my deathbed worse than ever.
My gosh.
Worse than the 2 prior times. I went down to 120 pounds and going to the restroom, which was like 15 feet away from the bed, I was basically risking cardiac arrest every time.
Oh my gosh.
My heart rate would go into the high 150s. My oxygen would dip into the low 60s. And that's flirting with cardiac arrest.
Right.
Just to go pee. So just to go pee, it was like, okay, this is a fight for my life. And I would have to pass by this mirror every time. This big mirror in front of 2 double sinks. And I would look at myself and the first thing that would flash in my mind was like, what did I used to look like? I mean, there was a point in my stonemasonry career where I was 215 pounds, no fat, 6-pack, shoulders like boulders, coconuts for biceps. Like,
Okay.
I was ripped. I was huge because I was working out all day.
Right.
I
For
mean,
your work. Right.
You're moving stone all day long. It's like being in the gym for 8, 9, 10 hours sometimes.
Right. So
And
were
here
you
I am,
just,
120
you're
pounds, and all I
unrecognizable
could
to
see
yourself.
is bones and veins and gray skin. If my head would have been growing, I'd think I was turning into an alien.
Oh, wow.
So I would make a joke, because laughter is good. And if you can't laugh at yourself, you should never laugh at anybody else, ever.
Gotcha.
And so I'd say things like, come on, bro, get it together. You're still wearing your Halloween costume, and it's already going to be Christmas.
I love this mindset.
And then I laugh, and then I'd get real with myself. And I look dead in the mirror. And I hope anybody that's listening right now, you look into this camera and you look in my eyes. This is what I said to myself. If you're going through something, you can turn it around with your words. And I would say, Mark, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. You were built for this fight. You were born for this fight. You've been training for this fight for your whole life. The only thing is that you have to remember is the only way you can win this fight is to fight. Once you stop, you cannot win. We're born for this fight.
I love it. I feel motivated. I feel motivated right now, and I'm not even in your situation.
Go fight.
You put a quote up, and I wanted to make sure that I brought it up. It was related to what you're talking about right now. You were talking about how it's easy to quit, that you could take your ball and go home. I did a little stalking on some of the cool things you get to do. You went on to explain this could be as a kid, you say this, and then in school, in your job, and then you quit on your family. And you said the more you quit it starts to become your first option. Then you talk about warriors and all of this amazing motivational things. I loved a part where you said, I never once woke up and strive to be average or mediocre. I am picturing you, Mark, looking into this mirror and saying these things. You don't know this about me, Mark, or maybe you do if you did some stalking, but I get to do mirror work with some students and athletes that I work. And I literally bring mirrors to the place I'm at. And I say, we're going to make it awkward and weird. You're going to look into your eyes, and we say affirmations, different things that we're working on. And it has to be uniquely their words. That's so important because it's not what I say. It's, like when you were looking in that mirror, what aligns for you. And this is just so powerful because it's such a great example about why mirror work and the words we say to ourselves matter. Is this something that you still do? Do you take time to look into your eyes?
Yeah. Once in a while, I'll get in this little space where I'll wake up and I'll be doing that thing that I tell everybody never to do. And boo-hoo,
Right.
for me. And then I'll be like, what are you doing, man? And I'll go get in my mirror and I'll get in there and I'll be like there 15 minutes. Really, bro? Like out of all the days you could have picked to do this, today's the day you picked. Like this isn't even close to all the other days you could have picked, but you're picking today? Like, come on, man. What could be the reason that you're picking today to be weak?
Right.
And I just go in at myself, and then I'll hear someone outside the door. And I know it's my wife, like, who's he yelling at on the phone?
Right.
Man,
She's
somebody's
like,
in
are you okay in
trouble.
there, Mark?
He's like, one of his clients is really in trouble, right? But
Right.
it's this client. You got to always be
Right.
your number one client. And you got to always be willing to rip yourself when you deserve it. Because we get into these spaces where we start relying on our weaknesses or our excuses, or we blame other people, or we're just complaining or wallowing in self-pity. Those are the tools of the weak. We have to
Right.
get rid of those.
Limiting beliefs will creep in. And for my listeners, I mean, Mark and I know this because the work that we do. Sometimes when people are on this personal growth journey, they don't understand. They're saying, I'm doing all the things. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm saying the affirmations. I'm meditating. I'm doing the things. I'm trying to show up as the best version of myself. But I keep having these limiting beliefs. The thing is, your brain thinks, wait a minute, Mark, Kate, who do you think you are? And your brain wants to keep you safe. So those limiting beliefs will creep in. But what Mark is telling you, my listeners, is exactly what you need to do. You need to talk back and flip the script. I love that your wife hears that, because in my office here, my home office, those who are listening to the audio version, you can't see it right now. I'm pointing to different areas. I quite literally will look into mirrors and say things to myself. I will dance around. I will be doing things. And my kids will knock on the door, or my husband, and say, are you on a call? Because I'll tell them, especially now they're on break this week. And I say, no, I'm just walking the walk, doing the work for me, because you're right. We have to do that for ourselves, especially when you pour into other people.
I'm glad
So
you
my
said this.
teachers,
I'm glad
go
you said
ahead.
this, because that's what I'm leading into, is where I was at. Where I was at was I was a very unhealed person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, made it. I've been to hell and back twice. God, use me now. I was
I'm
getting dressed
ready.
again. I was showering again. I was out in the world, but I was not healed. And
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, I was circumventing a process that I didn't even know was there. I didn't know. I didn't know. But I was like,
Right.
hey, I survived. Use me now. And when it wasn't happening, I got mad. And I'm like, well, what's up? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
have me here? Why do you want me here? Just to suffer more and struggle more? I've done enough of that. I'm tired of that. And I got in this real bad place, a dark place, because I thought I was mad at God, but I really wasn't mad at God. I had no reason to be. He brought me off 3 deathbeds, through 2 double lung transplants. He even put life back in my body when it ended, on a cold steel operating table. What
Whew.
would I have to be mad about? I was mad at myself because I had not yet developed the courage to look in my mirror and say, this is on you, bro. Get it together, man. This is on you. This ain't on nobody else. You need to
Right.
stand on accountability. When you want to do something in your life, when life interrupted hits you in the head, you got to deal with it. and you need to heal or you need to learn something, none of that's going to take place until you stand on accountability. Like, why am I here? How
Yeah.
did I get here? What did I do to be here long enough that this happened to me? And when you stop pointing the finger, you're pointing the finger. My grandma used to tell me this, because one time I pointed the finger at my cousin. I was blaming him. She said, "Look at your hand. How many fingers are pointing back at you? There's way more fingers
Well,
pointing
I
back
love
at you
her.
than are pointing away from you when you're trying to blame somebody else instead of blaming yourself." So
Right.
accountability is another superpower. It's
Mm,
another secret weapon that if you use it long enough, it becomes a superpower.
very true.
And that will allow you to learn from your experience, which will lead you to healing from that experience. And then in turn from there will create growth. Just like when you're a kid, you go out, you play a long time, you come home, you're like, "Mom and Dad, my knees hurt. What's wrong? Am I okay?" No, must have had a growth spurt. It's just growing pains. Well, do we
Right.
really think as adults that the experiences that we go through would not create some growth? All that pain? See, it's different. When you're a kid, you have the growth spurt and then you get the pain.
Right.
When you're an adult, you get the pain. And if you're smart and you embrace it, you get the growth spurt.
Right. And
And so
sometimes
we
we don't realize
we
that
don't
we need
realize
to
that.
do that. We think, I'm going to admit, because I always tell people you have to keep it real. When I left my teaching career, I almost held this badge of honor that I was tough enough to do this. I was in a place that I had to heal from so many different things that I experienced when I was a teacher, leaving that job after 20 years. And until I did that, I really didn't see my growth in my business. I just was making excuses. I love that you shared that, pointing the finger back at yourself. That's such a valuable advice that
And
you said your grandmother gave you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love her. And I
And then my
think
dad was real big on that too. Like, you always got to own your bad stuff way before you ever own your good stuff.
100%. That makes a
And
good leader. Those who are listening, a coach, a principal. I've always valued people who are able to say, I made a mistake. This is how I'm going to learn from it. What I
mhm.
do next matters most. Are you a coach or parent looking to boost confidence, build resilience, and create a winning mindset? It's time to discover the champion within. I'm Kate McCauley, founder of The Champion Within, and I'm here to help you transform your mindset, reach your potential, and thrive in school, sports, and life. With 20 years of experience as an educator and a mindset specialist, I know what it takes to empower teams and individuals to step up, stay focused, and perform at their best. Book a free call with me today. Let's learn how the Champion Within programs can be customized to meet your needs. You can visit my site at shop.danunow.com, or even easier, go to the show notes, click on that link, and book your call.
If you want to be a successful leader, you have to be able to check yourself before anybody else has to. You have to be able to correct yourself before anybody else has to bring it to your attention that it needs to be done. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to do that. Like, a lot of people aren't willing. They know they messed up, but they're
Right.
not willing to humble themselves and go before the people who are on their team or part of their team and say, "Hey, I messed up." You want the people that you're working with to care about what you're showing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to give them a reason to care about what you're showing them. You're
Right.
showing them something, you want them to care about it, but you have to give them a reason to care about what you're showing them. You can't just be like, care about this thing I'm showing you because I'm telling you to.
You need to
There
do it
has to
because
be
I
a
say so.
connection,
You're
and that
right.
connection is the human connection where we
Right.
say, "I'm human, I'm messed up. Let me just stand on accountability and show you guys what that looks like. Because if I want you to do that someday, I'm going to have to teach you how to do that or show you what it looks like."
100%. People respect that. They can relate to it and they say, well, wait a minute, she's not perfect all the time. Because sometimes people see the end result, the highlight reel, like we make of basketball or on
Mhm.
Instagram or all the places when we're out speaking, when you're, putting your book out into the world. the people we work with or people in general need to be able to connect with. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. This is what happened. And when you can share that and keep it real, you do build that rapport, and it gives people permission to say, I think that I need to own some of my stuff going on in this area of my life, that area of my life. And
Yep.
then you can navigate through. You don't want to sit in it there. That's the important part. You need to navigate through, just like we talk about looking in the mirror. What are you going to do next? You know, Mark, I want to talk about that book of yours. There's one piece that I would love to speak about with it. It is called Just Breathe and Believe. And breathe is an acronym, correct?
Yes.
Tell my listeners and me, I'm curious about, what does that acronym stand for? And how did you get this book out into the world so you can share all of your wisdom?
Well, this book goes back to healing. The need for it. I started writing this book. I'm on our honeymoon, me and my wife's honeymoon in Mexico. We were there for 10 days at this beautiful place called the Casa Piedra, the Rock House. It was very quiet, very tranquil. And so I told her I'm going to start writing, like an hour a day, something. But I found out very quickly that I needed help and that I needed healing. Because many times I start writing and too many tears just hitting the page, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't even see the page. And so, the part of this book that has helped the most people is the darkest parts of my story. The parts where I was very unhealed. When we don't heal from things in our lives, it leads us to even darker places. And that's exactly what it did for me. All the things I had been through, all the accomplishments I had achieved, all the accolades, none of that mattered at that point. I'm just going to be very frank. I turned to alcohol and drugs to turn off what I did not have the skills at that time to turn off on my own. I wasn't close enough to Jesus. I didn't have the coping skills, and I couldn't handle it no more. So I tried to turn it off, and it did for a while. But what it turned me on to was some even darker places than I'd already been to, and even the darkest places of my life, and eventually landed me up in jail. And on that jail floor, I said, God, I can't do this no more. I'm not going to destroy your creation anymore. I'm giving it back to you. You tell me what to do. You tell me how to do this thing. You tell me how to heal. That was before the honeymoon. That was before I had just barely met my wife when a lot of
And
this
in
stuff
that
went down.
moment, did you feel a shift, or did it take some time for you to start to change your behavior?
I always knew that my life was covered. Even when I was a little kid. There were several times I should have died as a little kid. I mean, there was once when I was 2 years old and I should have drowned in this pool. Nobody even knew I was drowning until my brother turned around and he saved my life.
Wow.
Then in another instance, I was climbing in this log cabin up to the loft on a ladder. I don't know how old I was. It was a little bit after the drowning incident, and I fell from the top.
Oh my gosh.
Boom, landed on my head.
Yeah.
I didn't die.
Yeah. Right.
There and several other things. I mean, when I was 10, I fell off a roof. I was fooling around with my buddies on the roof, and I fell off. Boom. And I just like, hey guys, I think I'm going to go home. I don't feel so good.
You're like, wow,
So
you're
I
so
was
right
always
in that
covered. I
you
was
were
always
covered.
covered.
You were
I should have died
protected.
several times, even before I got sick. And I knew I was covered through the transplants. But this thing that happened to me that I did not, the hardest thing for me was like, it wasn't the transplants. It wasn't coming back from that. It was learning how to live after I had died. That's something I wasn't expecting. I didn't see that coming.
Right. I know. How could anyone, right?
But like we said earlier, everything happens for a reason.
It
And it
does.
did. And I could have had 10 transplants, and I wouldn't have been okay. And I wasn't okay until I turned and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm digging my 10 toes down, and me and the worst version of myself and my demons, we're all going to have a throwdown.
Oh,
And
I
whoever
love that.
comes
And
out, comes
what
out
would
on
you
top,
tell
and
someone?
whoever doesn't come down gets buried.
Dude, what would you tell someone? There could be someone listening right now and their journey could be different or similar. I love how you just said I put 10 toes down and I'm going to go into this battle. What do you want to tell someone as the first step, or was there something that you would say if you're there? Maybe it's different than your journey. We all have a unique journey. What would you tell that person who's thinking, Mark, I don't want to live this way anymore either? What would you tell that person?
I would tell that person, as bad as you feel right now, that feeling, as much as you feel that right now, think about the people who are closest to you, that love you the most, that have to watch this crap.
Great advice.
Because
Great.
whatever you feel, it's not as much as what they feel.
Very true.
And if you truly love them, then you love yourself. And if you love yourself, then you're going to do whatever it takes to kill off the worst version of yourself and all those demons. And they came at me like, no, we're going to jump you. It's not going to be a fair fight. It's not going to be one-on-one. We're going to jump you.
Right.
It's going to be 4 or 5 on 1. Okay?
Right.
It's going to be the worst version of yourself along with all your demons. And we're coming out at it. And I said, let's do this then, because I ain't running no more.
Yeah, bring it on. You're ready. You have to
And
get to that
that
place.
was the biggest battle of my life. But
Right.
up until that point, my life, it seemed like I was running up a muddy hillside. I'd go 10 steps, but I'd slide back down. And then the adrenaline would kick in and the pissed off would kick in, because we're athletes. And when we can't do something, we get mad.
Right.
And then you go 20 steps the next time, but you still slide down. And it don't matter how much adrenaline kicks in. It don't matter how much of the pissed off kicks in. You're still sliding down. But until I threw that last shovel dirt on that grave of my demons and the worst version and the ugliest, darkest version of myself, that's when the greatest version of me was born. And that's when I said, I'm worth it. I finally showed myself like I'm worth it. I had
Right.
been living most of my life showing other people that they were worth it, and never really showed myself that. I got sick by raising my family
Sure.
because I was just doing a job.
I think so many people can relate to this. We put ourselves last often, which is backwards. We don't
We even
realize
put
it.
ourselves last as athletes. We put
We
our
do.
success before ourselves, because I remember those days. Like, no, bro, you're not as fast as those dudes. No, bro, you can't shoot like those guys. You can't jump as high as those guys. So you have to do the black dot workouts.
Right. Right.
You have to push yourself to where you're almost to pass out, where you're seeing these weird colors, the ones that aren't in the crayon box, and you're seeing these dots that they're not there, but they're there.
Right. And when we find out that it's an inside out job and we start doing that inner growth work, everything changes. It's a ripple effect into every area of your life. For my athletes, for my moms, I know myself as a mom, I did that for a long time, put the kids first. And of course, I want what is best for them, but I can't show up as the best version of myself if I'm not taking care of me. And when I finally realized that, everything changed and everyone was better off for it. So, what does breathe stand for in that book? Tell everyone that acronym there.
Believe relentlessly every time you're attempting tasks of healing and enlightenment. Just breathe.
So
Because
perfect.
when you breathe, a lot of people don't understand this about breathing. It's the first thing you ever did when you came out of your mother's womb. It's the last thing you'll ever do before you go back home. But when
Mm,
you breathe, a lot of people don't know this, but Moses once asked God, "What's your name?" And he said, YHWH. Well, those letters, when you sound them out together, the only letters you can't touch your lips while sounding them out. You can't move your tongue. But when you sound them out, doesn't it sound like this?
Yeah, it does.
Yahweh. Because
Yeah.
as humans, we have this propensity to use vowels. So somebody added an A and an E. But when you're breathing, you're saying God's name. So when you're breathing, you're inviting God into your experience. And what's the thing that we do the most, the first thing we forget to do when things get crazy?
We forget to breathe and focus on our breathing. Right.
We hold our breath and we
Yeah.
get crazy and angry because we're
Yeah.
holding our breath.
It
We
is
have
so
to
true.
breathe
You have to come back
because
to
you're
the breath
calling God
every
into your
time.
experience. You're calling God and inviting God in to give you the solution so you don't have to waste all that energy on anger and frustration and stress and eventually depression because none of those other things worked out.
This is so amazing. I really feel like we could do a podcast on each little part of this. Breath work is something that has to be taught. People
It does.
quite literally
And it's
don't
part of
know
my
how to
routine
breathe. And
now. I wake up at 4 a.m. I go outside regardless of the temperature. And I
okay.
work out, do body movement exercises for 20 minutes. Then I thank God for that body that was just moving. I thank God for these lungs that were breathing in His air. And I give thanks for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then I come inside, I get on my knees for prayer for 20 minutes. Then I get in my chair and I meditate for 20 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
then I get in the Bible for 20 minutes. And then I do a breathwork session for 20 to 30 minutes.
So important.
And then a little light workout. And then by then it's 6:30, maybe 7, depending on, sometimes in prayer it gets a little longer. We got a lot of people to pray for that
Oh,
need
I hear
it. So
that.
but then by then I'm ready for the world. I'm
Right.
protected, I'm prepared, and that's what landed me on my deathbed was that I never did any of that. I relied on my body solely. Oh, my body, it's strong, I'm fine. And I get up and I get ready and I give myself to the world, unprotected, unprepared, and the only place that's going to lead you is to your deathbed. So self-care is key. Daily self-care. I'm not talking go buy a motorcycle and then
Right.
you know go ride on the weekends. I'm not talking go to Vegas for the weekend. I'm talking daily self-care. Self-care that's level you up,
Right.
raise your vibration,
Right. And you're right. It's
raise your
every
clarity level,
day. I think
raise
that's so
your health
important.
level.
It's so important to do those things and make it uniquely yours. You don't have to do it the same way Mark does it or the
Yeah,
same way I
exactly.
do it. But what Mark is saying is incredibly important. It is not magic beans. You cannot do breath work one time or take a ride on your motorcycle on a beautiful day or have a girls' weekend or a guy's trip somewhere and say, I just did self care. It is a form of self care to do those things, but you need to do this on a regular basis. You need to build and stack those habits so it becomes a part of who you are. That is how you change your brain. That is how you change the way you show up in the world. So thank you for saying that. Mark, I honestly think we could talk forever. I really do. I think I will definitely have to have you back on the podcast because selfishly, I want to know some more things. I feel hyped up right now to go do some things. But before I get to my signature question, tell my listeners what you do now and how people can connect with you to just feel your energy and maybe bring you in as a speaker and work with them as a coach. Tell us all of those things if you could.
I just try to help people create a life that they don't have to escape from, whether it be alcohol, drugs, even TV or music or because some of those things will lead us into different places, or even like create a life that you don't have to say, man, I can't wait for that vacation,
Right.
and like create a life where your life is so good that you go to your vacation and it elevates you even more. And when you come back to your life, you bring all these things back to your life to even elevate your life. Like you
Right.
don't have to take a break from life to experience what life is supposed to be like.
I love that.
We this thing that the kids say, YOLO,
Right. You only
right?
live once. Right. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
It's the most ridiculous thing there is.
I
You
would
know
agree.
what? You only die once. Well,
Mm.
I used to say
So,
that.
except for you, Mark.
but you only fully die once. Your
Very true.
spirit only dies once. When the
True.
spirit dies, that's it.
Yeah.
There's
So
nothing,
where can people
there's no coming
connect
back
with
from
you?
that. There's no
No,
coming
there
back from
isn't.
that. You don't have to do things to get away from your life. This world will give you what this world will give you, and that's your ass kicking that guarantees you when you come in it. That's the only thing you're guaranteed. So we have to get to a point where we stop kicking our own ass.
I
No
would
more
agree.
self-sabotage. No more self-destruction. No more feeding fears and doubts. No more amplifying the negatives. No more using the tools of the weak. Because when we do all those things and none of them work out, then we go to the tools of the weak. We start blaming others, making excuses, wallowing in self-pity, complaining, or judging others before we ever look at ourselves introspectively. Those are the tools of the weak. And when those don't work out, well, then we say, oh, I'm mad, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed, and now I'm depressed.
Right.
Oh, man, we deserve more than that.
We
We
do.
deserve way
So
more
how
than
can
that.
people get in touch with you, Mark? I mean, I feel like people are listening right now saying, we want more of him. Where should they connect with you?
Man, I'm easy to find, I'm hard to miss.
I love that. What's
I
the
am
best
easy to
place?
find. I am hard to miss. You can check me out on my YouTube channel, The Warrior Life Academy. You can go to my website, thewarriorlifeacademy.com. You can find me on social medias on Instagram and TikTok as the Lung Transplant Stonemason. And you can find me on Facebook and
Love it.
Instagram as Mark Rodriguez. I'm easy to find. I'm hard to miss. If you need to talk to, if you think you're going through something that nobody's ever gone through, man, hit me up. I promise you there's something that I can help you with. I guarantee it. If I'm going to get to where I want to get, I have to go into the laboratory, not only as a scientist, but as a guinea pig too. And
Hmm.
and all this stuff that I brought into my life to get my life back, I know it works
Right.
because it's been tried and tested in the fiercest of battles. Or when you don't quit,
Yes.
when you choose to fight, you're gonna get revealed to you things you never knew were there. Gifts, talents, skills, strengths. It's like peeling and opening an onion. You have no
So much
idea the
there.
layers, but it's because you decided not to quit.
I think
And
we're gonna go to our last question right on that, Mark, because I think that
I
is
get
the
fired
perfect
up.
place.
I
You
get
do, and
fired
I
up when it
love
comes
it.
to this stuff.
I hope everyone follows you because we need more of you in our life. I'm gonna be honest. I will put the show notes down underneath this episode. People can click right on those links so we can make it easy for you to just feel this vibe from Mark. You need it. I know that I'm going to continue to follow along and definitely connect with him. I see he's out there speaking in different places. So make sure that when you do, you bring this energy into your world, whether it's you personally, it's professionally, maybe a business owner's listening saying, I think I need Mark to come talk to all of the people in our business. So, Mark, I'm going to go to our last question. If your life were a movie called The Champion Within and the screen fades to black on a cliffhanger, what is the audience screaming for you to do next? They're on social media hashtagging, I hope Mark does this. What is it?
I don't know, for some reason I'm getting a vision of myself on the edge of a cliff.
Okay.
With my arms stretched out wide, and I'm yelling to God, what if I fall, God? He yells back, what if you fly?
Mark, that is my absolute favorite quote. It's slightly different, and I have no idea. I don't even think it's accredited to
Sometimes we
anyone.
got to listen to God before we
Yeah,
listen to ourselves, because there's always
love
that little
it.
voice inside that's going to say, maybe you can't do this. Maybe you're not enough. And that's
Right,
that little voice. When you hear it, you got to say, hey, why don't you sit down and shut up? Let the
right.
adults, we're working here.
You're it.
Sometimes we have to quiet that little voice in us and listen to the big voice that's
Right.
in us, because God made us in his image. And when we look deep within ourselves, past all the pain and the suffering and the
Hmm.
trauma and the struggles and even our bad choices, we find our truest self, and we'll find God in there too, because he
Absolutely.
made us in his image. And I hope everybody gets to the point in their lives and their journeys that they realize that and utilize it to its very fullest, because that's where the power comes.
You are so right. And we absolutely owe that to ourselves, to everyone who loves us, all of those people we've mentioned. We don't want to show up as anything but the best version of ourselves. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for hanging out with me today. I know my listeners are going to be leaning in thinking, this was incredible. I'm just grateful that we got
And
to.
it being the Easter season, I have to say this,
Sure.
that in our toughest times, where it's most painful and it hurts the most, just breathe and know that that's when God's working the most. But we should be able to be willing to go through a little bit of pain for Jesus. He's the reason. He's the reason we're all doing the great things that we're doing. And if you're beating yourself up, stop fighting a fight that's already been won, that Jesus already won. No self-sabotage going forward. This is a new time. It's a new timeline.
I love that ending. And I just want to say thank you again. And all of my listeners, go crush the rest of this week. I know you're motivated after listening to Mark. I'm going to just probably keep listening to this on repeat. Thank you, Mark, and have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you for the honor of being here. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.